Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. You guys know this guy, next guest's younger brother pretty well, and if you're a little older, you realize that this was the first superstar in the Raymond family. Joining us today from California, but originally from the awesome state of Massachusetts, Tito Raymond. How are you, sir?
All right, my man. Thank you for having me, bud.
Full disclosure, everybody, we did this 2 nights ago, and I have my technical difficulties, as longtime viewers of this know. So we did this whole thing already. We're doing it again. So I want to specially thank Tito for being a trooper and going through this nonsense with me one more time.
Not a problem.
Okay. So again, I want to talk about the first time I met Tito, because I didn't actually meet him that day. First time I saw Tito was before I was out in California working for American Muscle, before I met any of the pros. This was in 1990. Organization called the ANBC, Lifetime Natural Organization, no longer around. But it was a pretty big deal for us back in the day in the New England area for natural bodybuilders. So I started competing in '89 as a teenager. Tito, I don't know, did you start competing before that? Were you?
Same year. It was 2 weeks before my 20th birthday.
Okay. So yeah.
So I was 19.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So in 1990, I was looking for to do a show around July, I think it was, and I saw our state championships, ANBC Mass State. I said, oh man, I want to do that. I'd love to win the teenage, but they didn't have a teenage. Actually, I was already 20, but they used to have a junior division in the ANBC, which I think went up to age 22 or 23. I'm not sure. But anyway, they didn't have one, and I wasn't a teenager anymore, so I had to jump into the men's medium class, open class. It's a big class. I want to say there was like 15 guys. The winner was a guy named Carlos Silva. Second place was Tito, and I was probably near the end, but I was making those excuses that crappy competitors make to themselves, like, oh, these guys are all way older than me. They've been doing it forever. And then somehow I heard people talking about Tito, or I might have been like right around where you were with your crew. And I learned that you also were 20 years old. I was like, man, I better step up my game. This is what a 20-year-old natural bodybuilder can look like. So, you lit a fire under my ass. So thank you very much for that, Tito.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I want you to tell the story that, your family it's almost like a Charles Dickens novel. So tell us about this big family of yours. How many of there were you, and how you guys kind of all got split up when you were kids and didn't come together until you were older?
We had a broken family. My brother and I and my younger sister were separated from my biological parents and my siblings, and My mother had 8 children, my biological mother, and I was adopted. My brother and I were adopted to the same family, and they had three children of their own. They had 2 children biological, and they had adopted another little girl.
Oh, wow.
And so my family in total is there's 11 children.
Wow.
So I have 10 brothers and sisters. I have 5 sisters and 5 brothers.
Wow. Can I ask, is everybody still alive?
Everybody's still alive, and we never lived under one roof together. There was the 5 of us max under one roof.
Yeah.
And it was messed up. I was, in and out of foster homes from, I was 4 years old until I was about 12. And then at 12, I settled in Wakefield, Massachusetts with the Raymond family. Oh, and they legally adopted us my freshman year when I was 14 years old.
And I was surprised to learn your birth name. What's the name you were born with?
Well, the name I was born with is it was named after my father, Zoilo Sotomayor.
Zoilo.
Zoilo Sotomayor.
I've been around Hispanic people for most of my adult life now, being married to a Cuban. I've never heard that first name before.
Yeah, I think my father's family might have been from Spain. I'm not sure, but that was his name.
Okay.
And so I was basically a junior. And so my father's name was Tito, his nickname, and so they nicknamed me Tito.
Yeah.
As a little version of him.
Did your dad pass away or no? I can't recall.
No, my father's he's not doing well. My biological father, but he's living with my sister in Florida.
Oh, okay. Because that's Liliana.
Lily, yeah.
Because Jose showed me a picture maybe 5 years ago. So at that point, what was he already, like 75 years old?
Yeah, he's like, I think 73, 72 back then. Now he's like 78.
So not a big dude. You know, we would expect that of a guy in his 70s anyway, but he
Yeah.
was throwing up a bicep, and I swear
Yeah.
it had this awesome jagged peak, veins on his arms.
Yeah, it was genetics. It was genetic.
He looks
My
good.
dad was always pretty good. You know, he was one of those guys that he had a barbell in his bedroom,
Wow.
and he would pick that up and work his arms and shoulders all the time.
Okay. So tell me about Wakefield, what it was like to grow up in that community.
Oh, it was great. Like my brother and I, we always count our blessings, and having the opportunity to be raised in a suburban town like Wakefield versus the inner city projects was a blessing. And we got to meet really great people, and we had great friendships that, you know, from, you know, 30, 40 years I have with some of my friends that I met in Wakefield. And yeah, and if it wasn't for that, like, you know, we wouldn't be where we are today,
Right.
for sure.
So how young did you get into athletics, and what sports did you play?
Well, the first thing I did when I was about 10, 11 years old, I was actually swimming. And I remember, because that was the first trophy I ever earned, was for a 100-meter breaststroke. And I won first place, and I was like 5th grade. And then after that, I got into Little League, you know, baseball, and I got into Pop Warner in Wakefield. And I don't know if you know about Pop Warner, but they have like weight restrictions. If you're 12 years old, you play with the 12 years old, unless you're under the weight limit. And I was way under the weight limit. You had to be 100 pounds. I was 85 pounds. And they wanted me to play with like 10 and 11-year-olds, and I wouldn't have it. So they made my parents sign a release. And that Christmas, I got my first DP sand weight set.
Yep.
With a bench and a heavy bag, and that was it. You know, it was a match made in heaven.
So did you start? Were you a fanatic about it? Were you training like every day after school?
Yes, I was. I was a fanatic about it. I was 85 pounds, and I wanted to be 100 pounds. So I immediately was every day after school. I was down in the basement of my family's house. I made my own gym down there. I concocted a pull-down apparatus with a hockey stick and a clothesline.
That's awesome.
And it was awesome because after school, I would get some of my friends. They'd come with me when I told them what I was doing. And you know, for a while, when we were getting ready for our freshman football year, I had probably 8 to 9 guys over my house almost every day through the whole summer.
Wow.
And I lived right down the street from a park, so we would work out in my basement, and then we would go to the park and do football drills.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, you know, when did you notice, you know, people with good genetics, it usually starts to show pretty soon. When did you notice that your body was taking on a look that your other friends down there working out with you didn't look like that?
It was immediate. It was immediate. Like as soon as I started to lift, I would swell. I was always super lean and little, you know, and my nickname was the Mosquito because I was fast and run around. And so over time, you know, I looked the same. It's just I just was filling out, and you could see, especially after I would train, you know, like my body would change immediately. And then I didn't know anything about nutrition at that point, so I made some really good gains in those first 5 years. But then it wasn't until like after, when I got into college and I learned more about nutrition, where I really started to make serious gains.
Right. It was how soon was Jose trying to imitate you and lift weights down there with you?
Immediately. I mean, I was 12 years old. He was 6 or 7, and he was trying to come down, and I had to fight him off and, you know, make him go back upstairs, and until, you know, he was 10 years old and I was 15, 16. I said, you know what, I know you're going to do it. I want you to do it right, and this is how I want you to do it. And so, you know, he'd come down with me every time I'd come down to the basement, and, you know, we'd get at it, and it was fun. We put on some music, and we think we were Rocky. You know, we put on the Rocky soundtracks and go to town.
Now, you were my age and you were in Massachusetts suburbs. I'm guessing it was Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC.
Yeah.
Kind of thing? Okay.
Of course. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
and we had the heavy bag that was hanging from the basement from the ceiling of our basement. So when we would be racking that thing, everybody would feel that 2 floors up.
I was wondering where the bag came into play. It's just from all the Rocky movies we used to watch.
Yeah.
Okay. So what sport did you end up getting the best at?
I got football. Football was my sport. And, I played basketball. I played baseball all the way till I was 15 years old. And I enjoyed them all. But football was really where my passion was at. And so, I think it was my sophomore year in high school, I decided then that I wanted to really dedicate everything towards that. So I stopped playing basketball, and I started running indoor track to get better, at the 40. And then I did outdoor track as well. And I found another passion that I didn't know existed was pole vaulting. So in the spring of my sophomore year, I learned how to pole vault and loved it. It was kamikaze, running with a 14-foot pole. And it just, it came really easy to me.
Wow. How high are those things set for like high school level kids?
High school, it's about 10 feet.
Okay.
I had the state record my sophomore junior year, where I had 13 feet.
Wow.
And that was before I started learning how to bend the pole.
In football, you were a pretty outstanding high school football player too, weren't you?
I was. I received Globe All-Scholastic and Herald All-Scholastic, and I was a parade All-American honorable mention.
So how did all this take you into bodybuilding? How did you first find out about bodybuilding?
Well, I was lucky enough to go to Springfield College, where I received a scholarship to go, and we had a lot of good people there. But my sophomore year in college, I was our grad assistant strength coach was a guy named Jeff King.
Oh shit, Jeff King!
May not know, but he was a Mr. AAU America, and he was a badass back then. And
I
he
want to
was
stop you and tell everyone, all these young guys, Google Jeff King, Google images Jeff King. This guy had quads like friggin' Paul DeMeo. He had like a 22-inch neck.
Yeah,
he was insane.
Man.
Yeah, go ahead.
He was a great
I didn't know
guy.
you knew him. Wow.
Yeah, he was my grad assistant coach. He was our strength coach, and I got in his ear. He loved me because I was one of those guys that was always in the gym, always doing what he told me. And then I told him, you know what? I said, Coach, I want to do a show. And I had already done a couple shows, but I really didn't diet for it. And I asked him. I think it was for the I don't know if it was the AMBC Massachusetts, or it was another show that he had given me a 6-week diet for.
Yeah.
And when I finally put the nutrition together with the training, it was instant. Like I changed right away, and I basically have been eating kind of the same, since then.
Wow.
Super clean, very organized, meticulous.
So I gotta go back in time just a second. So your first show, the kid who won your class was Craig Torres, right?
Yeah, that was when I decided to do. I was about to turn 20, and it was like 2 weeks before my 20th birthday. And they were like, Tito, you gonna do a show? Like, no, I'm getting ready for football. Yeah. And they're like, oh, you should do this show. And I'm like, well, what do I got to do? And they said, well, you got to, do these poses. They showed me a Flex magazine or a Muscle and Fitness magazine where they had all the comparisons. Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, I can do that. And they're like, oh yeah, and then you gotta do a routine to 60 seconds to music. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Sounds good. And I had like 5 days to get ready to do it. And first time I ever shaved my legs and my armpits, and it was a little awkward doing that, but it was fun getting up on stage. It was an outdoor event. It was at some place in Maine on the beach.
I think it was Old Orchard Beach.
Old Orchard Beach, that's what it was. Yeah. Yes, it was. And I didn't know who was doing it. I didn't know what was going on. But Craig Torres was there, and he was already competing for a couple years, I think. He was really good, really well known, and he won, and I came in second, and that stung, and that was a sting that I felt for a long time, and that was my motivation after that.
Now, you didn't lose too many times after that, did you?
No. I went on to win the next couple shows that I did. I came in second at that AMBC USA. I mean,
Wow.
AMBC Massachusetts.
Yep.
And then from there, I started getting into the like NPC, doing the New England's, climbing up the ladder there. And then I decided to go to do my first national show was, I think, 93 Junior Nationals, and it was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And there were like 35 guys in our category. And I go down there, and I stepped on stage for maybe 2 minutes, and they were like, "Thank you very much for coming." Yeah. Only the top 15 continued. So that was a sting too that I didn't really like. That was also a motivation for me. For when I went home, I went back to the grind. I had something pushing me.
Yeah. So you were really good at it, and I know you loved it, but it was never your goal to become like a professional bodybuilder and go that route like your brother eventually did?
Well, you know what? I just loved competing, and whatever it was, and I do races around our lake in the 4th of July. I think I did that when I was 11 years old. I ran in a 3.5 mile race and I just love the adrenaline rush of competition. And I did not have aspirations, to tell you the truth, to be like a pro bodybuilder. I just I enjoyed it. I didn't know what there was out there.
Well, we gotta back up also because we know that supplements play a role in pro bodybuilding. Obviously, you made a decision not to use them. How early on were people talking to you about them and telling you need to use these if you want to get to the levels that you want to get to?
Well, I think I was about 15, 16 years old when I started being around, exposed to it, because my high school football coach owned a gym called Olympia Nautilus, and he moved it to Wakefield when it was in Waltham, and he became my mentor. And so I was there 4 days a week, and the guys that were coming in, they were grown men that were in their 30s and 40s, and they were real, like there were some serious power lifters and bodybuilders there. Names like Ted Arcidi, Fred Smirlis, monsters. Freddie was playing for the Buffalo Bills at that time, and he was my coach.
A Waltham high school graduate, I might add.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
So right away, these guys are coming up to you and saying, "Tito."
Well, they weren't like they were coming up to me asking me to get on it. They would be like, you'd be a freak. You'd be a freak if you got on it. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not really interested. I think I can do it naturally. Yeah. And it's just, I took a lot of pride in not, I basically thought that was cheating, and I took pride in not cheating.
Yeah, and I mean, you did very well. You did plenty of tested shows, plenty of non-tested shows. USA Championships, you were in the top 5 a few times. You ended up second at the highest, which today would have given you a pro card. Back then, I think that in those times you still had to win the overall. There was just one pro card.
One winner every national show. It's unbelievable. There was something good about that. That it was legit. Yeah.
Well, I mean, everybody that turned pro back then, for the most part, if you could win the overall at the USA or your class at the nationals, you were pretty damn good. You were good enough to be a decent pro right away.
And I'm sorry, that's how it still should be.
No, don't.
I think that is watered down. I think it's watered down. Yeah. I think because of that they allow 2 people in every category, in every division, to turn pro. I think it's watered down, and it's not as
prestigious.
It's not as respected as it used to be.
I mean, I don't know how closely you follow the sport, but I used to know every pro by name. I didn't know everything about them, but I knew who all the pros were. All of them.
Right.
Because it was just men's and women's bodybuilding now. My God. I'm even though I work in this business full time, I bet I couldn't name more than 5% of all the people with pro cards if I had to.
Right.
Before we get into more contest stuff, I mean, I've often speculated, I'm sure other people have, what would Tito have looked like if he had gone to the dark side? Because, I mean, shape-wise, structure, I think you have better structure and overall shape than Jose. I don't think you would have ever gotten as massively thick as Jose is, but it would have been interesting. I can kind of picture what you would have looked like because you competed naturally at about 175 for the most part, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm guessing you would have been like 205, 210. I don't think you would have been massive, but you still would have had a small waist. You would have had those proportions. I mean, you always had that classic aesthetic look long before anybody was talking about classic. But did you ever wonder? I mean, you must have wondered what you would have looked like.
You know what? I always said that, I don't know. I think that, like they said, that the more that you got out of your body naturally,
right,
the more that you could have gotten with a little assistance.
Right.
So I always say if I had ever taken anything, I probably would have been closer to 225.
Yeah, probably.
I see guys around my height,
right,
at 5'7.5", at 225. Look at Dexter Jackson.
Yep.
Dexter's like 245. I mean, Dexter's one of the best in the world. And I feel I have the same work ethic, and we come from the same cloth, Dexter and I.
Yeah, I mean, I think I lowballed you there because, I mean, Jose's 5'3", and he struggles to get to 212.
Right.
So I'm sure you could have been
4 inches taller.
Yeah, I'm sure you could have been 225, 230. It wouldn't have been a big deal. So, wow, long history here. You competed for a long time. You did very well.
Almost 20 years.
20 years, yeah. And you did Team U 10 years in a row? Was it 10 times all?
10 years. 10 years in a row, yeah. I think I went from 93 to 2003.
And you won your class 3 years in a row there, right?
Yeah, I won, I think it was 99, 2000, 2001.
Because, I mean, there was a crew of just a handful of guys. And they were winning, like, every year they would win their class. I was like, geez, it's nothing personal. But I'm like, oh, not him again. It was like Chris Faldo would always win. Tricky Jackson would always win. You would win. Skip LaCour would win. You guys were dominating. And, it just says something about you that you were able to stay on top for that long at that level.
They didn't have much more for us, The Team Universe was it, And then the great thing about the Team Universe then, I don't know if they still do it, is that we actually became a team. Each guy in every category win. We became the team that the NPC would then fly to the World Championships.
Right.
And we had the honor and the privilege to be. I had the honor and the privilege to be part of that for 3 years. And
wow.
We did some traveling together. We bonded as a team. We went to Bratislava, Slovakia. We went to Osaka, Japan, and it was awesome. And it was all paid. All expenses were paid, and it was just an honor to represent our country in that way.
Did you go to Guam in the year they had it there?
I did not.
No.
There was 1 year where we won, where it was in I think it was in the Middle East, and we were at war, and so they didn't send us.
Yeah, I don't think we've had a team there in a very long time, and I think it's because of potential terrorist stuff.
Yeah.
But, it must have been similar to the Olympics, representing your country, because bodybuilding's, I don't think it's ever going to be in the Olympics, unfortunately, but this is about as close as it gets. Is IFBB World Championships, you were up there with guys from probably 50 other countries in your weight class.
Oh, more, yeah. It was awesome. It was awesome. I think my best experience in all those, there was two. I had one was in Japan. The thing about Japan was that they had other sports there. It's called the World Games.
Oh, okay.
And they had the Parade of Nations, which was unbelievable. And we had uniforms, and we got to march through holding the flag, and it was legit. And then and in Bratislava, Slovakia, it was just bodybuilding, but they were pretty hardcore. And I came in third, and I believe that the guy who won it failed the drug test, and so I ended up coming in second. Like months later, they sent me an email or something saying, "Oh, this guy failed, so you came in second place."
Yeah, not bad. So you did well as a competitor, very well, but you were far better known as a fitness model. There was throughout the '90s, I bet you had nationally and internationally 50 to 70 covers, somewhere in that range. You don't even know how many you had, right?
No, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, you didn't know when covers were coming out, and you do a photo shoot with somebody, and before you know it, it's on a cover in France, it's in Japan, it's in China, and those are the real interesting ones. When I have all my covers that I've collected over the years, and the ones that are from the foreign countries were really, really meant a lot to me.
Cool. So how did you start fitness modeling? Where did it all begin?
It began, I think, in about, I think it was 97, or, around there, where I was very disappointed. It was after the Team Universe. I did a photo shoot. After I came in third, I think, at the Team Universe, and I was so bummed out. The editor of Muscle and Fitness was Bill Geiger at the time, and he approached me and said, we really like to do a shoot with you. Are you going to be around for the rest of the weekend? And I was like, yeah, of course, I'll make myself around. And at the same time that I did that shoot in New York with photographer Rick Schaff, who's a real good friend of mine.
From Canton, Massachusetts, I believe.
Yes, yeah. So after that photo shoot for Muscle and Fitness, I then got Muscular Development, Natural Muscular Development. Do you remember that magazine?
It was around for about 2 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, they contacted me and said that they wanted to shoot me, and I had already was home, so I left New York. I was back in Boston, and they were like, "We want to fly you back up, for a week, and then fly you to Miami." And I was like, "Oh, okay." All right, I can do that. Let me check my schedule. And so I immediately hopped on a plane, was in New York, and shot with Per Burnell.
Yep.
And then we did some gym stuff at Bev's gym.
Yeah.
And famous gym in New York. And then from there we flew to Miami, where there was a Fitness America pageant going on, and we were down there for 4 or 5 days. And had a great time, and I shot with a bunch of the girls on the beach and in the gym, and then a lot of those photos were out. I got a cover of Muscular Development and a bunch of features from that magazine.
Were you on Muscle and Fitness that first year too, or did that take a little longer?
Yeah, that took longer. I was in the Muscle and Fitness. I had a nice spread in Muscle and Fitness, but I didn't get the cover of Muscle and Fitness for 10 years.
Wow.
10 years after I got my first cover, I think it was in, maybe it was 03 or 07, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So how did you end up in California for the first time, and then when did you decide, I'm going to live here?
Well, I had been coming to California since 93. I did the USA's that was in Santa Monica, and it was another bad experience where I came all the way out to California on my own bill. And it was one of those where you step on stage, you do a couple quarter turns, and then you go backstage, and they're like, okay, top 15 can come back out. Everybody else, thank you for coming. And I was one of those, everybody else, thank you for coming.
Right.
And but from that point in 93, I would come back to California. I just love training at Gold's. I love the atmosphere, the environment, the lifestyle the Californians are living. In Boston, it was great 6 months out of the year. Then 6 months out of the year, it wasn't so great.
Right.
So, it was after visiting LA so many times, I started to realize, well, why am I going back to Boston? And I knew what I was waiting for my brother to graduate college. And as soon as he graduated, I gave him my personal training business, and I moved out to California and started all over.
So, I was fortunate enough to be out there in those years. And I think we caught the tail end of, it's never going to be like that again. And I kind of feel bad for the bodybuilders now because they're never going to experience that. I used to go to Venice throughout the whole 90s, and especially toward the first half of that decade. Everyone was in there at one time or another. You would see Flex Wheeler, Chris Cormier, Aaron Baker, Gary Strider, Mike Christian, on and on and on. I mean, every pro was there. If they didn't train there regularly, they would come out at parts of the year and train there. It was amazing. So you must have. What was it like for you to be around all that for the first time?
It was great. It was a dream come true. I mean, that's what I wanted. I wanted to come out to LA to train with hardcore athletes, and even if they're just in the same room with me. Even if they didn't say even hello to me, I just wanted to be in that environment. And You're right. Like Flex Wheeler was a regular, you know. Chris Cormier was a regular. There were so many other guys and professional athletes. Kobe Bryant was a regular.
Yeah.
Mario Lemieux was a regular. There were a bunch of NHL hockey players, a bunch of Major League Baseball players that were regulars at Gold's.
Yeah. So, you know, did you have a tough time adjusting out there? Did you miss Boston at all, or was from right away you were cool with it?
No, you know what? The first year was rough. It was really rough. I was fortunate that I was I was under contract with a supplement company called SciTech Nutrition.
Yep.
And this was a young guy who was in Budapest, Hungary, who wanted to start his own company. And he saw me in the Muscle Mania shows that
Yep.
used to be aired on ESPN.
Right.
And so he contacted me and signed me under contract to endorse his products and be the sole athlete of the company.
Yeah.
And it was really, it was overwhelming. It was, you know, I traveled to Europe a lot then. And, you know, prior to that, I don't think I was ever on an airplane. And so here I am flying to Budapest a couple times a year. And then he would, you know, take me to LA to do photo shoots and stuff. And that's what happened, how I met my wife. We were, it was my last, I think it was in '98. It was my last big trip to LA. We were out here for, you know, from Budapest to LA back. We were gone about a month.
Yeah.
And
Jose was with you, right?
Jose was with me. And at the end of it, we were finishing up a shoot in Malibu, and they were looking for fitness models, female fitness models, and I had requested to shoot with Amy Fadley because she was almost on every magazine. My brother had her poster on his wall in college, and I had a bunch of her covers. Yeah. And so it was really, I really wanted to shoot with her, and so I got the photographer Rick Schaff, who's a friend of mine, to call, and I actually called her to ask her, and pretended I was his assistant, and she's like, "Give me Rick, you know, I don't want to talk to you. Let me talk to Rick to see if this is legit," and it was legit, and she was there the next day, and it was great because we got to spend some time together, you know, just as friends, and she was an awesome girl, and the hottest thing out there. I still believe that she was the inner and outer beauty, the hottest girl that was in the fitness magazines.
So how long were you friends before it turned into more than that?
Well, I decided I was going to move out at the beginning of '99. End of '98, I really wanted to come back. She hooked me up with one of her friends who was the aerobics director at a place called Bodies in Motion. Yep. And so she put me right on the schedule. I used to teach a kickboxing class, a boot camp kickboxing class, and I taught for 10 years. And she gave me a job without meeting me. And so when I came back out, Amy came to every one of my classes. And she stood right behind me and just was kind of supporting me. And so over time, we would, you know, hang out after class, and we would go get something to eat, and all sweaty and stuff. And she had a boyfriend, and we would talk about her boyfriend, and her boyfriend was really not treating her well. He was a professional athlete and traveling, and so one day we were at dinner and we were talking, and we were in serious conversation. And I looked at her and I said, "Do you know what your problem is? You never give a nice guy like me a chance." And it, you know, it was like a light dawned on her, and she was like, you know what, she thought about it. And I think it was like maybe 2 weeks later, I asked her out on a date to celebrate that she was on The Young and the Restless.
Oh, wow.
And I took her out. She's like, you know, let me take you out. No one's taking you out. And she's like, okay, I'll do that. And so, you know, from that point on, I think she really I gave her a bunch of hits that I wanted more than to be just friends. Yeah. But she would always put roadblocks up and like halt me, and it was probably she made me work hard for it. And I think that's why we're married, and 15 years later, 20 years together. Yeah. So it was worth it.
Two great kids. You have two sons, right?
Yep, 2 boys, 12 and 9. And
just recently, Julian is your oldest?
Julian's my oldest, yeah.
he just qualified for the Junior Olympics as a swimmer, correct?
Yes, yes, it was so exciting.
Yeah.
You know, and he's not super competitive. He says he's not, but he is. And he's been in the pool since he was 2 months old. And
Wow.
and you know, he had been getting lessons, and he started to really grow his 10 and 11 years when he was 10, 11. And then last year I told my wife, I'm like, you know what, he doesn't need lessons anymore.
Hmm.
I want him to compete. I want him to get a taste of victory. And so I convinced Amy to sign him up on a swim team that's really serious. And in January we got him in, and he did his first race, I think, in February, and qualified in his first race to be on the relay team.
Huh.
And so they put together 4 guys from the team to swim in the Junior Olympics, and they broke the team record by 2 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really exciting.
I'm curious, was Amy an athlete in her youth or no?
Amy was a different kind of athlete. Amy was born and raised in Texas, and she rode horses.
Okay.
She took care of her horse. That was her best friend, and she would meet the horse every day after school and muck the stalls and brush the horse and wash the horse and ride it. And she ended up riding competitively and doing barrel racing, and during the rodeos she'd be that girl racing around the barrels. And she got into competing later in her age. I think she was like 28 when she started competing.
That's right. And I mean, she won quite a few things. I remember she won Fitness America pageant like 93 or 94. And then,
wait a minute. Let me erase that. She actually competed as a bodybuilder.
Really?
At 21 or 22 years old. Yeah.
Never knew that.
Yeah, she was a bodybuilder. That's right.
Wow.
And then she got it, I think, because then later on they had the different categories. They had the Fitness America.
Right.
And so she did that.
Did not know that.
She won the Fitness America. Of course, because I think you were working for him at the time, right?
Of course, yeah.
And I think 95. She placed
93, 94, yeah.
Yeah, she placed really high in 93, 94. And then she won it in 95, I believe.
Right. And she turned pro in the IFBB or not? I can't even remember now.
No, she was a Musclemania, a Fitness America pro.
Yeah, I didn't know if she kept going for much longer after that.
No, she got so much work just from that she didn't really need to compete. And
that's true.
Yeah.
Right. So when did you know? Not to say that you retired, because you seem to have popped up a few times, just to do it, I guess, in more recent years. But you stopped competing eventually. What, around mid 2000s or so? It was after
2003. I know exactly, man.
Yeah. So
it was the USA's. It was the USA's was my last show in 2003. I had taken 2002 off from competing because I wanted to put on some size, and I did. I think I went from my heaviest off-season weight was probably 195.
Yeah.
Prior to that, and at that point, I was already living in LA. I was training with Mike O'Hearn. We were killing it, every day. And I had to change my lifestyle to put on weight because I was very active. Especially living in LA, I'm on my bike, on the bike path, doing the Santa Monica stairs or going out in the ocean and swimming or whatever. And I couldn't put on weight. So I had to start renting a lot of blockbuster movies and eating a pint of ice cream every day. I don't know if you remember Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's had the best pints.
Yeah.
And I did. I ballooned up to 210. Yeah. And I didn't like it. I was out of breath going up a flight of stairs. I was always puffy. I always liked to, I was known for being lean and being shredded and showing lines everywhere. Yeah. And I competed as a light heavyweight one time at about 188 pounds. And I was swollen, but I didn't like my conditioning. So that was the last time I ever did that. So and then I came in to get ready for the USA's. And I thought I brought in a really good package. I made it into the middleweight class, and it was between me and Stan McQuay, and we were pretty much identical. And it was going back and forth. I thought it was between me and Stan, and all of a sudden we go off for the finals, and we were bookends. I was in 5th place, and my younger brother Jose came in fourth, and it was the first time he beat me, and so I was like, you know what, it's time to hand over the torch and let him take it.
Wow. Now, did you ever think in your wildest dreams that he would be? Because I'll tell you, the first time you guys both came out to WrestleMania one year, I think it was like '93 or something. It was early on, and I remember thinking how cute it was that Tito had a little brother that wanted to be like him and was kind of trying to be a bodybuilder. And, you know, I could see a little bit of potential in him, but I thought you were going to be the superstar, and he was, you know, the tag-along little brother. I never thought he was going to be the one that would be, you know, he's one of the best in the world, obviously. He's won the Arnold Classic. He's been second at the Olympia. He's won many, many shows now. He's a legend in that 212 division. He'll be remembered forever. Did you ever think that he would be the one to take it that far instead of you?
You know, he always had that in him. Like he really did not. It wasn't like I liked or enjoyed defeat, but he really did not like defeat, and so he would go back to the drawing board, you know, 10 times harder. He was willing to change everything in his life to be better and to do better. And you know, something that a lot of people don't know is that Jose won his class in the USA's and Nationals in 3 or 4 different categories. Yeah. You know, from weight classes, and that was just shows the diligency of Jose, like coming in, you know, perfecting each weight category.
Let's give him full credit, Tito. He was natural too.
He was drug-free.
That's what people don't understand is Nationals was not tested, USA was not tested.
Right.
But in those shows in Team U, between those 3 shows, I think he won 10 or 12 national titles as in his weight division.
Oh yeah.
And then the overall at Team U 1 year, right?
Yeah. He could have turned pro probably 4 or 5 times, but he was like, what am I going to turn pro at 155 pounds, 165 pounds, 175 pounds? Right. I think it was after he had won the middleweight class at the Nationals where he was he accepted the pro card.
Now you've continued being an athlete this whole time, even though you didn't compete in bodybuilding anymore. One thing that surprised me a few years ago, because my wife's been into CrossFit for 10 years, and a few years ago, Jose said, Tito's getting into CrossFit. He's pretty good at it. And I think I checked the leaderboard. You know, let me explain. The World Championships, for everyone to know, is called the CrossFit Games. It's every July, I believe. It used to be in Carson. I think they moved it somewhere else. But anyway, in February or March, they start this thing called the Open, where every week, everyone has to, across the world who wants to be in that games has to do the same workout, and the times or points or whatever. There's a leaderboard on their website. And you were, when I looked, you were like 20th. No, you had already been up. You were 2nd or 3rd in all of Southern California for Masters. Yeah. Was that like the first year you were even trying it?
That was my 2nd or 3rd year. The first year was like jumping into something that was incredible. You know, coming from, you know, a very competitive background, I didn't have it anymore. I didn't compete in bodybuilding. I was doing road races and 10Ks and 5Ks, and I did a couple Spartan races. But this CrossFit, when I first did it, it was like instantaneous. Like I wish it was around 20 years ago. Yeah. But it was one of those things that I just kept coming back for more. My first year was, you know, an eye-opener, because what these guys are doing, what kind of athletes these guys are, is just unbelievable. So I think it was my 2nd or 3rd year when you saw that I was like 2nd in California. And then I think it was in 2014, I was really creeping up the ranks, and in my 2nd year, I was in the top 100 in the world. In my 3rd year, I was in the top 50 in the world, and then I was creeping down. I think my last one, I came in 30th in the world, and they take the top 20 to go to the games, and I just missed out on that. There was actually one workout where I came in 2nd in the world. Wow. You know, they do those workouts, and then one workout that I came in 2nd. Yeah. But you have to be good and efficient at everything. You can't suck at anything. Right. And I sucked at the snatch. I had never done an Olympic snatch in my life, and had learned as I went. Taught myself. I got a couple lessons from a CrossFit guy, but I basically just taught myself all of those lifts, and it was, you know, exciting because I improved, you know, almost weekly. Yeah. And doing that, I could see myself in the future, like, you know, doing more. I think I PR'd at a 275-pound clean and a 185-pound snatch.
Wow.
And those are the two exercises that I never did before. Right. And coming from a foot background, it's a surprise. But at Springfield College, they didn't have us clean or snatch.
Wow. So, you know, I don't want this to be all about CrossFit, but bodybuilders not CrossFit all the time. And I've been to the Northeast regionals a few times, and, you know, it's the eastern part of Canada and the entire Northeast. These people are freaking phenomenal, and that's just the regionals to get to the national, to the World Games. What would you tell people, especially these bodybuilders that think, CrossFit's for wimps or wussies?
Oh, yeah, you couldn't go. Most bodybuilders, just because of the goal and of what they want to accomplish, they couldn't survive one workout of a CrossFit workout. Right. I've always been the kind of training where it's functional, you know, and in the functional training that I do is what built my body. So it built me to look like a bodybuilder. I'm an athlete first and foremost, and the reason I started training was to be a better athlete. And so what these guys are doing is just taking it to a whole nother atmosphere. Some of these guys could be in the Olympics in powerlifting. Yeah. Never mind, you know, Olympic lifting, I'm sorry. Right. You know, snatching, you know, clean and jerking 385 pounds. That's, you know, after doing a 10-minute all-you-can-do workout, then go into a clean. It's challenging, and I think that's why I really was drawn to it.
I mean, just to give people a little taste, this is the last thing I'll say about CrossFit. There's something they do called the overhead squat, okay? I've seen guys at just a regional level take 300 pounds off the ground, press it overhead, and then they have to do reps on the squat while they're holding that 300 pounds over their head.
Unreal, but also a lot of those guys are getting injured, you know, and it's like, to do the things that they're doing, they're pushing the envelope. They're pushing it so much that they sacrifice technique and form just to get a rep.
Now, speaking of injuries, I knew you had a knee operation a few years back.
Yeah, that was a simple one. That was just a meniscus. Right. It was an in and out procedure, arthroscopic, but it was a year and a half after that where I wasn't sleeping well probably for about a year. I was tossing and turning. I had constant pain in my groin. It would move from my groin to my hamstring to my hip. And I thought it was my bed. I thought I got a new bed. I changed the bed. I got a new mattress. And, you know, over a course of a year and a half to 2 years. And then finally I was like, this is more than my bed and more than everything else. So I went to the doctor, and all he did was did an x-ray. And when I came back to the room, the guy's looking at my x-ray and he says, Tito, you did nothing to make this happen. He's like, you were born this way. And the way that I had narrow hips and the way my femur went into my hip socket, it was always rubbing on the edge. And so he said, you are a classic example of someone who needs a double hip replacement. Whoa. And then it was like time froze right there. I'm like, he didn't even take an MRI. He did. From the x-ray, he knew that, because he saw that I was bone on bone. Yeah. And so what was happening was I had developed bone spurs. And so, like, I would open up my leg and my leg would catch and then snap over the bone spur and be super painful. Oof. And so, you know, I think it was my wife's, you know, urging me to go see the doctor. She's just like, you're cranky. You're always mad, because I wasn't getting enough rest and sleeping. And I got to tell you, once I had the surgery, I broke up the surgery to 2 different, you know, surgeries because I didn't want to be out for that long. Yeah. So I did one hip in August, and I did the other hip in December, and that was about 15 months ago.
And how's everything feel now? And how's your strength come back from it?
It's coming back. It's you know, I just made it back to the 300-pound club, and I'm working my way back to the 400-pound club. But like I told my wife, she's like, why are you lifting so heavy? And I'm like, babe, it's all relative. You know, this is not heavy compared to what I used to lift. So, and I told her, I said, babe, everything that I'm doing with perfect technique and form, and I'm staying with high reps so that I'm not going to, risk injury.
Tell me about strength. You told me a story the other night about being 15 years old and a substitute teacher called you out on your bench press claim.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think I was a sophomore in high school, and we had a substitute teacher who was a young guy in his 20s, and we were talking about working out, because back then I still had a T-shirt on and my arms were jacked, and I had veins going down my arms, and he's like, what do you bench? And I said, 315, 325, and he's like, no way. And I was like, no, yeah, I can do that. And he's like, no way. And so he took our class, all the guys, and we went down to the gym.
That's hilarious.
And I had to prove it to him.
Oh, man. And you did.
And I did. I think at one time I was at 17-year-old, and I had paused 380 pounds in a meet.
Because it was only a few years ago, so you're probably already like 44 at this point. At the LA Fit Expo, they had a deadlift challenge.
Oh, yeah.
What'd you do, like 350 for 40 reps or something?
Yeah, this was before CrossFit, too. This was, I think there was Jose, myself, and Derek Farnsworth.
That's right.
We were the ones that were, we would push the limits with our strengths and our reps, and so they had it. We double our body weight, and so I weighed about a 175, so it was 350 pounds to squat and deadlift, and it was all as many reps as you can. And so the squat went first, and at 350 pounds, I think I got 21. And I knew that there was no way I was going to catch Derek Farnsworth because Derek was at like 40 or something. and Jose at the time weighed 200 pounds. So he had to do everything at 400 pounds.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon session was the deadlift. And I ended up beating Derek by 5 reps and got 41 reps to his 36.
And you could have kept going, but you only stopped because you knew you already won, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, I'm not going to risk injury.
Right. Okay. I want to get just a couple of questions from the viewers or the readers or viewers before we go. Nelson Muntz wants to know, how has your training and eating changed and evolved from your teenage or your early 20s to now?
Well, one thing for sure that I tell a lot of people is that, I think back then we consumed so many calories and so much food and so much protein, and it was like, protein was the most important thing, and I would take it to a whole nother level because I was natural, and so I would be super strict on my food and be carrying food with me in Tupperware containers. And I think I told you the other night that I think my serving size for one meal was about 12 ounces.
Wow.
And that's a lot. And now I eat maybe 6 ounces. Half as much. And I think I'm able to maintain the same size. I'm still about 178 pounds. And I don't eat as many carbs as well. Again, because I think I try to keep myself, I want to stay lean. I want to practice what I preach. My business card is myself, my body. Right. And so I keep it, finely tuned.
I mean, I've known you a long time. I've never ever seen you with even remotely looking chunky, whereas so many of us have, I've been a fat boy many times in the quest for mass. Do you think bodybuilders eat a lot more protein than we really need? We think we need a lot more than we do?
I do. I do. I think that it's unnecessary. I think that smaller portions more frequently would definitely be better.
Yeah. I mean, and your training and stuff, I mean, I know you guys were super strong as kids, you and Jose. I think he talked about you'd walk in the gym on leg day and 315 would be your first set of squats. That was your warm-up set.
We would definitely, I was always good about warming up. But one thing that we used to do is we wanted to do 315 for 30 reps. And Jose was 5-6 years younger than me. So it was really pushing him. Like he wanted to beat us no matter what.
Yeah.
Beat me no matter what.
Right.
And it was fun because, I would always, consider Jose like as one of us, even though he was, a younger brother. and he was a lot stronger than most of my friends, that were my age. And when he went off to college, I think that's when he really started to he learned about nutrition and exercise physiology and the way the body works, and I think that it just put him in at a different level.
Yeah. So we talked the other night. I want to mention this again. I was at the Olympia the one year. I wasn't working. I was actually there as a spectator a few years ago, and somehow I think his girl at the time snuck me up to the skybox that you guys had above the Orleans Arena. You were there. They had all the hors d'oeuvres and the drinks and that shit. It was cool. But when Jose got 4th place that year, you threw down your drink, yelled out some obscenities, and ran out of there. And I'm thinking, wow, I think Tito takes it a lot worse, gets more upset when Jose doesn't place where he should or thinks he should than Jose does.
Yeah, for sure. For sure I did. Because I've always been more of the emotional one. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and what you see is what you get, and unfortunately at those times when I'm disappointed, in public, and I had to leave. I had to get out of there because you would have seen me doing a lot more, and I just see how much my brother puts into it, and I honestly believed, especially then, that he deserved a higher placing.
Yeah.
Being in the industry and having competed for so many years, I can tell an apple from an orange. You know what I mean? I felt like he deserved higher placing.
Right.
There were a couple years with, Flex is the best 212 ever, right? But
yeah.
Jose pushed him so many times, and Flex came in slightly off a couple times. Very slightly, where I thought Jose had a chance to beat him, and he ended up coming in 4th on that one, and it was very disappointing.
So do you follow the sport at all, or you just kind of follow Jose?
I just follow the bodybuilding and the classic bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Because some of those guys are in the gym that I see every day.
Dude, you have the two Olympia champions.
Yeah, Danny Hester and Beyond. They both are classy guys that really they put a lot of work and effort into what they do and their craft, and they're both at the top of their game.
Do you kind of wish Classic had been around back when you were in your 20s?
I do. I think that maybe if it was, I might have had a better chance at.
Absolutely. Is that even a question?
Yeah. It's it's one of those things that it is what it is, and I contemplate so much. I feel like that is a perfect category for me, and I sometimes, quite frequently, like especially every time I go to the Olympia. Yeah. And support my brother, I come back and I'm all fired up, and I feel like I could compete, I could get up there again. And even as of last year, I told Jose, I'm like, I want to do one show, and I want to do one show with him, like doing the same show, so the both of us could be on stage. And I don't know if it would be in bodybuilding or in the classic bodybuilding, but it would be pretty cool if we could get up there one more time.
Well, I can tell you, I sat through all the classic divisions at a bunch of national shows last year. Only the North American had masters divisions, not USA or nationals, but over 40, you would be like B or C class, whatever. If you could look anything like what you used to look like, I don't think too many people would have a chance of beating you, put it that way, being totally honest.
We may find out,
Yeah,
we may find out sooner or later. We like Jose. We know Jose doesn't have too many years left, and so that window of my, of what I want is closing.
Right.
So, in the next year or two, we'll see what happens. Like I really started to see some progress in my own training, in my development, just because I couldn't really push my legs hard for about a year. Until about, I was at a year where I could start hitting 315 and working with 315. And as soon as I started working with 315, I could feel like, like a secretion of testosterone in my body, just start to making me grow. And even if it's just little shape stuff, like I have people coming up to me all the time and saying, no, you look bigger. And I was like, I'm still 178 pounds.
Yeah.
But they're saying to me that I look bigger and I look fuller. And, these are people who have been around it for a long time. So I'm like, you know what? If I had another year of training this way, let's see what happens.
Yeah, because I think you'd be in the same weight restriction as an amateur. How tall are you now?
5'7".
Yeah, I mean, we're all shrinking. I used to be 5'8.5". I'm down.
Me too.
I'm down to 5'7.5". I think you would need to get down to 178, which probably wouldn't be an issue, right?
That's where I'm at now.
Okay.
And I feel like if I were to get ready for a show, I would probably compete right about 175.
Yeah.
To show the conditioning that I used to show. Yeah, I think I would be right about 175, which is a middleweight. I've been a middleweight my whole career. I never moved categories except for that one time experimenting with the light heavyweights.
Yeah.
And and it's good because that's my walk around weight now.
Yeah, I mean, classic, you'd be in a certain class, like a B class or C class, and depending on your height, you probably know all this, but but maybe not because you're not that close into the competitive stuff. But yeah,
Right.
You just need to get down to that weight. And I know what you looked like. I was around. I saw you in your prime, and you were badass. And if you can look anything like that again, good luck to your competitors. Put it that way.
I think I could bring a similar package, but just a little bit better quality. And that's what I said. I always said that about competing, especially as a natural bodybuilder. You're gonna have a package that even if you just changed by a little bit better conditioning, a little bit bigger sweep in your quad, and that doesn't mean that I put on 10 pounds or 5 pounds. It just means that the package is better quality.
Right, and that's another thing where you'd be perfect for classic, because say you turn pro, now they're going to bump you up. You can be like 10 or 12 pounds heavier at the same height as a pro, but you could keep improving for a long time without necessarily jumping up a lot in body weight, which is a concept most people don't quite get, but you sort of just explained it pretty well.
Yeah.
Well, Tito, you've been very, very generous with your time. You've done this twice now, so you're the man. I owe you one. I'll have to buy you a shot of Patron or something next time I see you.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Cool,
sir.
So thank you so much for your time, Tito. It's great. It's good to get to know you. I learned a lot of things I did not know about you, even though I've known you off and on for 28 years almost. Yeah, wow.
Wow. Yep.
Good
Time
Lord.
flies when you're having fun, my man.
Whew. Especially when you have kids and everything, the years just go.
Yep.
All right, man. So thank you so much. And
Thank you.
for the Ronline Report, it's been Ron Harris with Tito Raymond. Thanks for watching.